Hello P6, it's time for us to think about Wednesday's maths. Now to begin with today, our warm-up activity features our difference pyramids. Now let's take a moment to think about how we complete those. So you have your difference pyramid, there are two levels to choose from. And what we have to do is, as it says at the top of the page, find the difference between the two next door numbers and write the total above. So when we find the difference, we look for the bigger number of the pair. It's the larger number, take away the smaller number. So I've got 24 and 11. 24 is bigger than 11, so 24 take away 11. So take away 10, take away 1, you're going to get 13. So 24 take away 11 is 13. Then I have to find the difference between 11 and 48. Which one's the bigger number? 48's the bigger number. So 48 take away 11. What's 48 take away 11? Yep, of course it's going to be, take away 10, take away 1. That's going to give you 37. Find the difference between 48 and 77. So 77 take away 48. You might do a take away question. You might be doing 77 take away 40. That would be 37. Then take away another 8. So you could do it by partitioning. Or what you might do is do it by counting on. Start at the 48. What do I add to get up to 77? But altogether, the difference between those two numbers is 29. And then we keep going. So we have to find out the difference between those two numbers. What's the difference between 13 and 37? What's the difference between 37 and 29? We write the answers above. And the aim is to get to the top spot and find out what number is at the top of our difference pyramid. There are two levels to choose from. So that's the higher level task. And then there's a slightly easier lower level task. So we have got two levels to start off with for our warm-up. And then today's main activity, P6, is all to do with our decimals. And over the last 2 days, we've been practicing adding and subtracting decimal numbers that have got two decimal places. That's two numbers after the decimal point. Can you remember what those numbers are called that go after the decimal point? Well, as we've learnt, we've got our tens and units, then we've got a decimal point. The number straight after the decimal point is called the tenths, and the number after that, the second number after the decimal point, is called hundredths. On Monday we practiced adding, on Tuesday we practiced subtracting. Today we're going to be doing a mixture of those two things. So let's see if we can remember how to set out some of our calculations. So in my first example it says add 45.92. Do you remember to say 92, not 92? 45.92, add 6.74. So in an adding question, it doesn't matter which one I begin with. Remember, we can do adding in any order. We can reorder the numbers, but it's often a good idea to pick the bigger number on top. So 45.92, 6.74, well 45.92 is going to be the bigger number. So I'm going to put it at the top of my calculation, 45.92. And then I need to add my 6.74. Now, when I go to write this number underneath, where am I going to begin? Well, the clue is look for your decimal points. If there's the decimal point there, in the line underneath it, the decimal point has to be straight underneath the previous decimal point. So if I put the decimal point there, that will help me write my 6.74 in the right place. The 6 is the number before the decimal point, so it'll have to go there. 0.74, so my 7 and my 4 need to go in there. Check what type of calculation it is. In this one I'm adding. So I'm going to add together these numbers. Now, before I add them together, P6, can you remember what we talked about yesterday? What would it be a really good idea for me to do now before I do any of my working out? Yeah, it would be a really good idea to put that decimal point in. Because if I don't put it in, the answer will be wrong. So we'll do our adding. We're going to add the hundredths, then the tenths, the units, then the tens. So 2 add 4 is, it's going to be 6. 9 add 7, it's going to be 16. So put down your 6, carry your 1. Don't forget the carried number, P6, goes down at the bottom. 5 plus 6 plus 1. Well, 5 plus 6, that's 11, and 1 more. Yeah, that's going to be 12. And 4 and 1 makes 5. How about I say that answer? 52.66. Let's go on to a second question. Again, we're going to add, and this time we're adding 5.65 and 88.8. Good idea to start with the bigger number. Which one of those is worth more, 5.65 or 88.8? Yeah, it's going to be the 88.8 because it's a tens and units and tenths number. What have I got in this one? Well, it's just units. The number before the decimal point is my units, and then I've got my tenths and my hundredths. So let's start off with the bigger number, which is the 88.8. And then I have to put my 5.65 underneath it to add it. So to make it easier for myself, decimal point in, 5.65. So I've written in my 88.8, I've written in my 5.65, I've got my adding sign, I'm going to row my line. But actually, I can't start yet. Why can I not start? Well, there are two reasons. I haven't got my decimal point in for the answer. But what else looks strange about this question? Yeah, there's nothing there in the hundredths. 88.8. 0.8 comes after the decimal point. There's only one number after the decimal point, but in this one, there are two numbers after the decimal point. Can you remember what we talked about earlier in the week? What should I do in this empty space? Yes, I can add a 0 at the end of the number. 88.80 is exactly the same as 88.8. They mean exactly the same thing. After a decimal point, at the end of the number, we can add extra zeros. So I'm changing my 88.8 into 88.80, and now I'm going to add my 5.65. So 0 add 5 is 5, 8 add 6. It's going to be 14. 8 plus 5 plus 1, well 8 plus 5, that's 13, and one more, yeah, 14. 8 and 1. How would I say that answer? 94.45. So we've practiced adding. Let's do some subtraction questions. Let's find the difference. So in my next question it says, find the difference between 19.44 and 2.5. Now, just like we're doing in our difference pyramids, when I find the difference, I'm looking for the larger number, take away the smaller number. 19.44, 2.5. Which one of those is worth more? Well, the 19.44, that's the tens and units, tenths and hundredths number. But my 2.5, that's just a units and tenths number. So which number is bigger? It's going to be the one that's got the tens in it, the tens and units. So let's start with our 19.44. Put the decimal point in underneath it, so I know where to write my 2.5, because those numbers have to be on either side of the decimal point. It's a find a difference question, so I'm taking away. So decimal point in, roll the line, decimal point into my answer, but again I can't start P6. What do I still need to do? Yeah, I need to put a 0 in there after the 2.5, because the number above it has got tenths and hundredths. My 2.5 has to become 2.50. Now I can do it. 4 take away 0 is 4. 4 take away 5? Can't do that one. So go over into the units, do your exchange. So the 9 becomes an 8. Carry over that one. So now I've got 14 take away 5, which is, it's going to be 9. 8 take away 2. And 1 take away nothing. 16.94. So the difference between 19.44 and 2.5 is going to be 16.94. Let's do one last question. Find the difference between 61.75 and 80. Now, that's not a decimal number. It's just an ordinary number, isn't it? It's a tens and units number, 80, 8 tens, 0 units. But this one, the two numbers before the decimal point, they have to be my tens and units, then my tenths and my hundredths. Which one of these numbers is worth more, P6? 61.75 or 80? Well, if I'm comparing the 61, the tens and units, and the 80, it's going to be the 80, isn't it? So my 80 needs to go on the top of the question. And if that's my tens and units, then my 61.75, well, there's my tens and units again, 61.75. I'm finding the difference, so it's take away. Decimal point in, but what am I going to still need to do here, P6? What will I need to do to be able to finish this question off? I'm going to need to make that 80 into 80.00. Do you remember we talked about this a lot yesterday? If I have an amount of money, for example, if I've got £2, I could write £2 that looks like that, but I also could write £2 with a decimal point and 2 zeros after it. Putting decimal point and 2 zeros after it doesn't mean I've suddenly got anything extra. I've still got £2. It's just another way of writing it. So instead of just writing 80, I can put 80.00. That way I've got my tenths and I've got my hundredths. And now you would be good to go on that question. In this one, you're going to have to think a lot because there's lots of zeros. So 0 take away 5, I can't do. I can't go to that 0. I can't go to that 0. So I have to go all the way over to the 8. Let's do the exchange. So the 8 becomes 7. Carry over the 1. That's now a 10. But I still have to get back over here. So cross out the 10. Change it to a 9. Carry over the 1. Still can't do this bit. So cross out that 10. Change it to a 9. Carry over the 1. Can I now do it? 10 take away 5 is... Yep. 5. 9 take away 7 is 2. 9 take away 1. And 7 take away 6. So what was the difference between 61.75 and 80? The difference was 18.25. Now P6, today you are going to choose one of two tasks. So there are two choices to decide between. If you choose to do the higher level task, you're going to look at this page. And on this page, we're thinking about a ferry, the Euro ferry. And there are lots of signs that tell people what to do and where to go. They might be arrows, they might be no entry signs. What you have to do is look at these different symbols that have been created in these lights. It tells us what fraction of the sign is lit by each of these symbols. So to make this arrow sign, they need to light up 0.23 or 23 hundredths of the sign. To light up this shape, they need to light up 0.18 or 18 hundredths of the whole sign. So if some of these were put together, so if I had the arrow sign put with this one, what would be lit up all together? Where you're going to need to do an adding sum here, P6. So you'll need to add the 0.23 and the 0.31 to see how many hundredths have been lit up. And you need to do the same for the others. So in this one, you'll have to add together the 0.18 and the 0.49 and so on. Question 2 is also about adding. In question 3, we're comparing the lengths. And remember, measure is another way that we often use hundredths. So the Euro ferry itself is 26.43 metres long. But then I can see the length of a truck, I can see the length of a car, and I can also see the length of a caravan. Question 3 asks you to compare those. That's going to be a takeaway question. More taking away in number 4 and in number 5, and then read the instructions very carefully for parts 6 and 7. That's the higher level task. If you choose to do the lower level task today, then your lower level task P6 looks like this. And you have got a mixture of 12 questions to do. Number 1 up to number 6, they're all adding questions. Number 7 up to number 12, they're all takeaway calculations. So the decimal points are already there for you. You might write this on the page. You might print this page out and write it out on this page. Or you might have a squared page or just a file page at home that you can write these questions out on. If you're writing it out by yourself, don't forget, keep your decimal points in a straight line and don't forget to include the decimal point in your answer. So P6, that's our main task for today. once you've got all of that done, we've got our reasoning task for you to have a look at. And this one today is all to do with more handling data. And you've got a question. You need to work out the bars on the graph. Can you complete that graph based on the information that we're told? Once you've done all that, I'd love you to go over to the Top Marks website and have a go at this game, the coconut ordering game. This time we're going to select the one that says up to 10, and then in brackets it says 2DP or 2 decimal places. And you're going to try and knock down the coconuts in numerical order, starting with the smallest one, working your way up to the largest one. And then to finish off, why don't you head over to Education City and see if you can get your name onto the leaderboard for one of our Play Live Maths. Maybe it'll be the adding, subtracting, multiplying or dividing. Some of you last week even managed to get your names onto the national leaderboard, not just the Brooklands leaderboard, but also the national one. I wonder, can anybody manage to do that this week? Good luck, P6. Just do your very best.